One, two, three.
Some wake-up call.
Who's out there? Come out now and you won't get hurt!
Alright then, if you say so. Welcome to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. I am your host.
Is this a dream? How can you be here? Where am I?
I mean, it's like a dream, but
So
you know,
whimsical.
I've known for my whimsy, and with me always is my co-host.
How could a slight concussion do all this?
I don't know.
It'd be more than a slight one, I can tell you that. It's been
It's
probably
been a
severe ones
few.
over the years.
I think they compile like each one. It just you keep adding those micro.
I'm actually kind of concerned that that's going to lead to dementia early in life.
What did you do to the logo for this episode?
Nothing. Why?
Look at it.
Oh, I must have moved it.
Quite embarrassing.
Oh, why didn't you tell me about it before and give me time to fix it?
Because I just noticed it
Wow.
on the intro. I was like, "Oh, that's embarrassing."
I must have moved something and then moved that.
Mhm.
See, we have a two-door system. It's like an airlock here, Davan. It only works if both of us show up. I showed up by
Yeah, I
doing it
know.
wrong, and you got to catch it.
I'm just a few minutes too late on that one. My
All
bad.
right, well, I will see if I can fix it for you. I don't know. Does that matter at this point?
No, it doesn't
Okay.
matter at all for this episode.
All right.
I mean, it's gonna look like that on all the different services. But,
people have come to love our zany, fly by the seat of your pants style of podcasting. I think, right? We're lovable weirdos with our ephemera of nerddom surrounding us in our respective homes, while we talk about a show that's 30 years old. That's what we do, right?
that is what we do. I don't know if I
Right.
mentioned it, but I am Davan Davington, and with me is M. Andre Farouk.
So, is yours name from? It's supposed to be Warren Worthington.
Yeah,
It's terrible. That might be your worst one yet.
That's my worst one.
It's got to be. I think it's pretty bad. I don't know.
Oh.
X-Goons vote right now. I'm kidding. It's fine. It's not. I'll let it slide.
And Andre Farouk is better than Davan Davington.
Yeah, because mine actually applies to the episode. And
so does mine.
Yeah, I know, but Davan Davington is a real stretch. Warren Worthington isn't the same thing twice. And my name is the Shadow King's real
I thought
name.
about that, but to me it didn't lose the luster. The joke.
And his name is Amal, which sounds like Amandre, so it still works. I think mine's pretty clever, actually.
Davan Davington sounds more like Warren Worthington than Amandre sounds like Amal. Let's send it to the X-Goons.
Right.
We're already into a little scrap off the top here.
That's it. I quit. I'm done.
Right, yep. We're here to review season 4, episode 5. Xavier Remembers. X-Men the Animated Series, written by Stephanie Matheson, who previously wrote Beauty and the Beast, which I loved. I gave that one a 10, I think. This one I didn't like as much. Let's say that. But this is the last one she writes. She only writes these 2 episodes for this series. And directed by Larry Houston. So, what do you remember, Andre? Do you remember this episode enough to tell us about it?
No, I totally watched a different episode.
Did you really?
No, God, no. I watched this one. I made a whole joke about Petrich Farm remembers last time. How would I have gotten it wrong? So wrong.
That's true.
I'm nothing if not dedicated to my craft here at the X-Rated. I was going to say here at the Graphic Histories podcast. Here at the X-Rated podcast. Where
almost as dedicated as you are to your Pepperidge Farm jokes. I mean, it's just
I love it.
Pepperidge
well,
Farm
it's mostly from Fantastic. Actually, it's mostly from. Rick and Morty did a little joke about it when they went to the Citadel, but I'm pretty sure it was Family Guy did a joke about it, and I think Futurama did a fairly funny joke about it. Where I can't remember which one it was. It was probably Family Guy based on the type of humor, but it was like, do you remember a time when certain people couldn't vote and only white folks could use the washrooms? Petrich Farm remembers. It was just sort of like this long run about how like this nostalgia of like the past that people tap into for like, Petridge Farm or any of these other things that like talk about tradition, sort of gloss over how terrible other parts of the history was. Whenever people are like, things were so great in the 1950s, it's like not for everybody. They weren't. It was great if you're a white person or a white male specifically. Yeah, you're probably on top of the world. But not so great for everyone else, So
depends on where you're at.
That is true. But I think in most places in the world, you're probably doing all right. That's funny. Yeah. All right. So here we are. We were at. Well, no. Don't tell me to start talking about the episode when you haven't played the last week on yet. You're just gonna
previously on X-Men.
I wait for you to start so that I can cut you off. Way to ruin my fun.
I know you do, you sick bastard.
When we arrived here, we saw only Cortez. Liars! I saw them jettison the chamber.
Wait, this isn't the right one either. Oh my god! I did the wrong one 2 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. This is starting to take it off to a great start, I must say. Maybe your finest episode yet.
I know. Man, I don't think I have it then. How did the last one end?
Oh dear God. Well,
no, previously on X-Men. But it was like Magneto went off into like the ether.
Yes.
He says he's not dead though.
Magneto did go off into the ether, as you would say.
Well, sorry, X-Goons, I didn't mean to ruin the previously on X-Men.
There actually wasn't one in this episode, like as far as the normal previously on X-Men's go. No, this one is it's just Magneto leading them in space and them coming back to Earth.
See what happens when you call for that segment? It ruins the whole thing.
That's it. Okay, good. I'm going to call for it more often because I think it's terrible. It never applies to what this episode is. No, I actually think it's fun, but it does rarely apply to what this episode is about. I guess I got to stay in my lane.
This one wasn't
curmudgeon.
Well,
you didn't like this episode?
It's not my favorite.
It does make. Well, I'll talk about my X point. It does make some things better, but not necessarily this episode. All right, so we get to Xavier having some kind of a dream. Well, electricity crackles over the X Mansion. We're not really sure what all this is about, but it's causing some kind of a vortex, a wormhole, if you will, a gateway into another dimension. If you will permit me to surmise. So
another plane.
Yes, another plane. Perhaps. No, don't get ahead of me now.
Okay,
perhaps another realm of existence. Yes, that's fine.
Why?
You don't want to use terms that are going to tell them what it is.
I move.
Because you're paralyzed, Charles. It's been a normal part of the show since the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't nothing new. Although conveniently sometimes you
remember that he's paralyzed.
So I know you have a key of this, but we see the X-Men are hearing this sort of what's going on around here, and Charles screaming in his sleep. So they all come out of there's this electricity that kind of goes through all the rooms, permitting all the X-Men to wake up and come out. And we see them all in their nighttime clothes, which is kind of fun. You don't have to have a still of this, do you?
No.
Oh man, Wolverine's looking pretty jacked in his little green house coat with his boxer shorts. True. And Beast also wearing. It's funny how when Beast is in action as a crime fighter, he wears less clothes than he does when he goes to bed. His shorts, he's wearing boxer shorts now. It would appear to be. However, he's usually wearing, I'm guessing, a Speedo or something to go along with those X-Men shorts.
Says the guy who performs in a unitard.
It is a singlet, and it covers a good portion of my body. It's only one strap, so you do get one nipple, but that's just how it rolls. I do have a large chest tattoo. It's nice to show that off. So yeah, leave me alone. So that is fair. I mean, honestly, if I look like Beast, I would wear what Beast wears. He's Jack. Look at him. But yeah. So, but it's just kind of funny that he wears like more clothes when he sleeps. Storm has a very fashionable yet elegant nightgown, a shorter nightgown. Well, Jubilee, very on brand, wears some old jersey that's too big for her. So they come out to investigate. Cyclops, who I assume was on duty, comes running down the hall in his outfit. In his X-Men outfit, tells them all to get suited up and go outside because there's some doings are transpiring. We see Some doings are transpiring. Get to the truck. There's a doings are transpiring. So we see the X-Men investigating, but then they seem to be attacked by various enemies that appear out of nowhere, including Sabretooth, who gets in a scuffle.
I don't believe it. That's right, Runt. Ain't life just special?
I don't know why I love Sabretooth's voice so much.
With Spider-Man.
Yeah, I did say that. I was hoping they got covered by the remember when I mentioned
but I pointed it out.
Remember when I mentioned the crippling brain injuries? So
one of my X points was going to be how much I missed Sabretooth.
Yeah, I don't know why I love his voice so much. It doesn't really look like it goes with him that much because he's so hulking. You'd think he'd have a deeper voice, but I like it. I don't know why I like it so much, but I really do.
It works perfectly, man.
It does, actually. Maybe it's just a weird synergy that I never really thought of before, but it is.
Because he comes off as deranged and violent and homicidal.
That is true. So Jubilee is attacked by a Sentinel. She manages to blast the head off it, which just turns into a maniacal-looking Charles, who's laughing at her, which is actually kind of a disturbing moment. There's a few horror moments in this, which are kind of nice. But it is on brand for the character who is causing this, which we'll get to. Storm is being enclosed within a small box. You know, the light is closing in around her. She's trying to escape. It's really preying on her fears as well.
What city is this? No. Please?
Be gone!
No.
Some great voice
Someone
work
else is
from
fighting an enemy. Oh, yeah, great voice work from friend of the show, Alison Seeley Smith. Yeah, hers just like the world closes around.
Yeah, I know, it's like
darkness. It's like, you're now in
like
dark.
a physical representation of the emotional darkness we all feel.
Yeah,
just closing
deep stuff. There's some crazy, trippy stuff in this.
This is a pretty. I like this episode in that it's a little off brand, but it's kind of fun in a weird horror. It's got some horror movie elements too, which I think are kind of fun. And also something that I'm going to talk about in one of my recommendations later. But we see Scott and Jean get attacked by Mr. Sinister, and they're all kind of getting sucked into the ground after their defeat. And then we kind of see that this is all sort of in Charles's head as he's struggling to battle with whatever's going on. Beast tells us, I love, there's a scene, like, do we know what kind of doctor Beast is? I assume he's a doctor of, like, a scientist. Like, he's not a medical doctor.
He's a geneticist.
Yes. So at one point, Jean, like, can't you do something? You're a doctor. He's not like a medical doctor.
You know, he can do that a bit too, though.
I was really hoping that, well, I guess, of course. I mean, he's kind of a little bit everything, but I would love for him to, like, shoot back with a, damn it, Jean, I'm a geneticist, not a general practitioner.
He already does the Spock fascinating all the time. He might as well start doing all the Star Trek impressions.
That's right. So, you know, Beast mentions that in a previous scuffle, Xavier suffered a slight concussion, which I'm guessing is laid over from the previous battle with Magneto and all that stuff in Asteroid M. But actually, the thematically, and I guess I'll say this for next point, but there's this does carry over some weight from the previous episode, which I think is interesting. But so Beast says that you know, Charles's mind is sort of insane because of his powers, and it's hard to regulate exactly what's happening with him because of the immensity of his abilities. Putting a concussion on top of that, you know, who knows what that could mean. So Cyclops kind of shows up and is trying to find out what's going on. We see his readings getting. Beast basically surmises that similarly to being under hypnosis, Charles is in physical health, but his physical health is declining because of what's going on in his mental world. So you know, they're trying to reach out to him, but they're having trouble getting into his mind. We see what is happening, in fact, with Charles.
Yeah, Professor, and this place is great. No sentinels.
So he's visited by his mother and by other people in his life that have, you know, meant something to him. He appears, interestingly enough, in his flashback, like or in his dream world kind of appearance, he appears in his military outfit, which I think is an interesting, like, why that would be how he's ready for battle at all times, which is interesting. But his mother, who we met earlier in the Juggernaut episode, we learned out a bit of the past of those two.
You don't see her, though. They just talk about her being sick all the time.
That's true. Yeah, we didn't see her, did we? I thought we did at one point when it showed them, like, driving up to the mansion when they were kids in the back seat or something.
Maybe I don't
don't
recall
remember
that.
exactly, but she's wearing a very like Victorian era dress, which is funny. He's implying that Charles is
I know they make him seem so old.
Yeah, Charles is from like the 1930s. So
no,
then
before that even, geez.
So then Charles is kind of visited by all of his X-Men and younger version. Well, at first it seems actually I thought it was a younger version of Cyclops. It was just like we didn't get to that yet. That's later. I thought it was a younger version of Cyclops, but it just there's no good pictures of that scene on the internet. I should have screen capped something, so it would have been better than whatever you can find online. But at first I thought it was a younger version of Cyclops, which is Cyclops in like leisure wear, like he's on vacation, which is something we've never really seen before. So then we see all the other X-Men are also in vacation wear, including Wolverine, who's sporting a nice light green, dark green short combo, while drinking with a straw and wearing sunglasses. But the rest of the X-Men hanging out by the pool, and Charles's mother tells him this is like that his fight's over. Yeah, basically Murphy.
He says in his youth, Charles Xavier used to hunt down Jack the Ripper. Yeah,
that's who killed his mother. In fact, it's a whole other storyline. So
yeah,
actually, isn't that whole storyline that I think I recommended that book, the Gambit X-Men crossover, where it was like I think there was some relation to like Wolverine being Jack the Ripper. I think there was some kind of like a slight implication of that. It wasn't, but it was just when they thought Wolverine was killing people. So yeah, Charles is basically in his happy place where all the fighting's over. They all get to relax forever. It's implying that he died, I guess, is what his mom's sort of saying, but they're not really overtly saying that because we don't really do that. But there's a nice little, you have the line from Wolverine where Wolverine's like, "We don't got to fight anymore, Professor." And he kind of comes over and puts his hand on him, and it's very like, you don't have that one?
No, I don't think so.
I feel so light, so free. Let go. The universe will be yours. Yes.
He's going on a trip. Really, this
before we get to that
peyote.
Yeah.
Like
that's kind of feels like that. Just before we got to that part, Wolverine's like, "You don't got to worry about us anymore, Professor." He puts his arm on. He's like, "Let us go." It's just very soft, Logan. So then, of course, we see Xavier kind of surrounded by all the people, that in his life that. And if you pause it like I just did while skimming through it, there's a bevy of characters I've never seen before. And some strange coloring on some of them as well. Like Lycos is there, Carl Lycos is there. I don't know why Xavier feels like he's happy that he's there. You see Forge and the X-Force there. I'm not sure why Xavier feels a certain attachment to them. They colored
X Factor, like they always show in every scene where they show a bunch of different people like tuning in on what's happening.
We haven't even met Polaris yet. We did, I guess, but she's there like not in her X Factor costume. But then we see for some reason Quicksilver's wearing a version of his costume that doesn't have his actual shirt on. He just has a lightning bolt over his skin.
Right.
So it's very, very strange. But anyway, Xavier's being surrounded.
I think that was a mistake from the colors.
Oh, I would assume so. But we even see, like, bottom of the frame is kind of being covered by our title there, but you can see the back.
I can get rid of that.
That's all right. You can see the back of what would be Nightcrawler. We haven't met him yet. And then I'm guessing maybe
this guy in the green helmet. That looks like it almost could be like Ronan the Accuser or something.
Yeah, I kind of feel as though it might be like Magneto, but the colors fucked it up. And that's probably Beast the blue guy. I surmise the guy in the bottom right is Jack Kirby, but that's not. That's just me surmising. If you had a cigar. So Xavier's being kind of influenced by this external force that you just played to let go, to sort of go into the light, which is this like swirling thing. We see Xavier kind of appearing as outlines in this world, which we will come to learn is the astral-plane. So as he's being pulled into the light
on the astral-plane, where the greatest telepaths go.
You were so the greatest ahead. Yeah, but
you brought up the astral-plane, so I was just bringing in some context.
I know. I like how they just make up stuff as like we all know that all great minds go to the astral-plane where the battles happen. It's like this has never come up before and never again, I'm sure. So like, why do we all know this?
The astral-plane has.
They mentioned it. Knows the astral-plane is. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, but we accept what we accept. So Jean Grey goes in, tries one last time to reach Professor as Charles is nearing this swirling vortex of light. he starts to hear Jean over the voice that's kind of calling him into the vortex. So as Jean's reaching him, he has a flashback to a memory, which is how he met Storm, which is a nice little piece of filling in some past of the X-Men, in which he was going to petting a monkey. That's not a euphemism. There's actually a monkey there. And buying some fruit from a vendor. And while doing so, a young Storm stole his wallet.
So he bought no fruit.
No, he's just petting the monkey. But when his wallet was missing, he discovered that she'd taken it. He ran after her. I love his like going to Africa outfit. It's just like a safari outfit, like pure.
Oh, yeah. He looks like a tourist.
Well, it's very on brand for cartoons like this, especially this time period. Like if you go to the jungle, you got to wear explorer outfit. You know,
I mean, who would?
I mean, you got to look fashionable when you can. It's also a lot of clothes. So Storm runs off with the wallet, knocks on a door to try to get into, I guess, her hideout. But Xavier catches up with her and uses mental abilities to talk to her and ask for his wallet back. She gets scared, drops the wallet. He picks it up, but is then reached out telepathically by someone else who invites him into the door to have a seat in his little cafe. And they need to talk about, he also has psychic powers. And it's rare that he runs into other mutants that do. So he invites Xavier in. They talk telepathically. Xavier meets this man who we don't actually hear his name. It's credited, if you look it up, obviously, it's
Amal Farouk.
Amal Farouk, who kind of looks like John Rhys Davies in the 90s, which I'm guessing may have been the inspiration for this character.
Back in the Sliders days.
Yeah, Sliders John Rhys Davies. That would make sense. And he probably would fit the look of this character quite well. It reminds me kind of his, and this is a very deep cut, but his appearance as the Kingpin in the Incredible Hulk TV show movie, The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, in which Hulk teams up with Daredevil.
In the yellow costume.
No, it was all black costume.
No, it was black. Yeah,
it was the all black costume. It was like the one that he wore in this first season of the Netflix show.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, Farouk basically reaches out to Xavier. And it's funny how quickly this escalates. Basically, Xavier quickly learns that this guy is bad, and he's trained.
Oh, I got that here. Hold on.
Yeah. You do not approve of the way I do business.
Using children to steal? No, I do not agree with that.
The little brat thought you were human. Normally, I would not steal from a fellow mutant.
Using children to steal? No, I don't approve of that.
He's also
a thief is a thief, no matter the victim.
I must disagree. Non-mutants are hopelessly stupid creatures. They deserve our most egregious exploitation.
See, that's why Shadow King is a scary villain. He's a true believer.
Well, I like him because his motivation is different too. Like, he actually just it's not even just that, like normally it's humans are beneath us and they should be like our cattle or our slaves or like, or just do whatever we can to elevate mutant life. He's more like they're idiots. Let's exploit them and get what we can out of them, which I think is actually an interesting motivation because it's different than most villains on the show. So,
they're really a dichotomy in how they view their powers as well. Where
he's more like a con man.
I don't want to, but he's more like, especially in his kind of mutant supremacy that he sort of feels as well. In his, if you have eyes, you use your eyes to see in every way you can. He's just like, I have these powers, so I can use these powers in any way I can because that's how I was born.
Yeah.
So he sees nothing wrong with any of it.
Kind of makes Farouk. Kind of makes you want to side with the government folks that want people to register their powers. It's like, basically
the war is contentious.
It's a baby born with a gun that's, welded to it. That's going to go off at some point if it chooses to or not. Like, if the baby chooses to grow into someone that's going to use it. So
you're Team Iron Man. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, obviously, I like Captain America better, so I probably would have sided with him. Although Spider-Man did go Iron Man, then turned Captain America, so I probably would have done the same.
Yeah.
So basically, based on this alone, like Charles doesn't really know much about this guy, except that he doesn't really care for humans, and trained a bunch of kids to steal. But then because of this, Charles attacks him, pulls him into the astral plane, and they get in a fight on the astral plane where they, basically Charles traps him in a void where he's trapped for the last 20 years. They take on these giant these giant monster forms to fight each other. I hope you don't have a point about these animal forms, do you, Davan? Oh, you
No,
do.
I don't. No, I don't. But I do have the Shadow King action.
Oh, that's later. That
in
is pretty
that
cool,
form.
though. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I have a point about these monsters, and if I get stuck on a point later, remind me to bring it up. So
Cool.
these they take these forms of giant monsters, fight each other. Charles wins and kind of deposits the Shadow King into a vortex where he'll be trapped in the astral plane forever, which is pretty intense. Like Charles essentially killed his body. Like we see,
you just met the guy. You just meet
Yeah.
a guy and you ban him into the astral plane.
we see him knocked out on the ground. Like he's not conscious anymore, and his body will never have a consciousness in it. So it's probably going to die. All they can do, and he's in Africa. I'm sure they don't have like the greatest. They're not going to take the stranger and hook him up to machines and keep him alive for the next 20 years until he can return to his body. So essentially, Charles is doomed this guy to a life of consciousness without a full physical form, which is horrifying. Also, in a void where you can't do anything, at least in prison, you get to go outside and talk to other people. He's all alone, trapped in a void by himself for 20 years. So drive anybody insane.
Yeah, it's not the best.
I was young. I had never met a mutant who possessed such merciless cruelty as the Shadow King. I knew the human race must be protected from such creatures.
And this is basically Charles got such creatures. It's funny because when you played that, it was right in the part in the show when that comes up, because it shows him getting
nailed
flashed.
it.
You did. He getting flashed of Mr. Sinister and Magneto and all these other villains that'll come to.
Oh yeah, we
kind of
got
protect
that.
the world from. So then
I
we
love
see
this shot for some reason where like Sinister just has Jean and Scott. I don't know. I love that shot.
Yeah. Well,
like
then
the East Forest.
He steps out and sees Storm and realizes that perhaps he's a better way to train these young mutants into not being exploited by people like the Shadow King, but being able to stand for themselves and being better. So because of that, we get those little flashes. Do you want to play them now? The first one with the old X-Men in their old costumes. Just Gambit just took his jacket off. I'm not sure. Wolverine does have his old like fighting the Hulk costume from the comics, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, which is cool. And Warren's there, which confuses things from earlier.
Oh yes, 100%. There's no reason he should be there, but I think that's just a matter of someone dropped the ball. And Storm has her own costume on too, which is fun. But then we get
this is him in his like Defenders.
Actually, he wears that costume in this show a little later on when we see him next, I think.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, but we do see him wearing his red yellow Defenders outfit.
We have this where they're all kids.
Yes, and Wolverine's still there for some reason, but
and wearing some. What is he even wearing? Like samurai gear?
No, it looks more like the kind of outfit, the weapon, like the Maverick.
Oh, when he was part of like when he was part of Weapon X.
Like when he was going on Strike Force for Weapon X. But then when we see some flashes of him training the X-Men, we see Warren in his red and yellow kind of outfit. And then we kind of get updates to the current.
Storm the smallest. I guess he met her when she was the youngest.
Yeah, because Jubilee's older than her.
Yeah.
How is this possible? It makes no sense. Why? So, but then, as he's kind of going through this mission of remembering his past, he gets pulled out of it when he's almost being sucked into the portal. Then he's struggling against the Shadow King before he can get sucked in. Basically, Shadow King explains that he's been trapped in this prison. We don't really talk about the fact that we've seen him before when Storm tangled with him in Africa. But, that would have been a way he was trying to get out of this place before. So, but it still also confuses some things. Why does Rogue know who he is? Because because Charles seemed surprised to see Shadow King come back. But
Rogue was in Africa with Storm the last time we ran into Shadow King.
No, but in that episode, Rogue knew about Shadow King.
Oh, yeah, true.
He's like, we tangled with him before. And it's like, you didn't. Charles did. And maybe that's just from Charles telling a story. But it doesn't make, because Charles seems this is the first time Charles has encountered him since then. Yeah. But anyway, we do see his cool little Shadow King form in this mental plane, but he's trying to get Charles to give up so he can take over his body.
I love that form, by the way.
I like the other one better when he kind of looks like a symbiote. I like the other one better where he's like a suit of armor, like a retro suit of armor.
This guy.
Yeah, he looks pretty cool. He's got like a shield and a sword. And
Yep.
Anyway, he manages to overcome Charles and take over his body.
You're not gonna believe the weird dream I just had.
Man, the weird dream I just had.
They were not dreams. The Shadow King has been attacking our minds.
Storm recognizes that whoever's influencing their minds and their dreams is Shadow King because she encountered him before and was kind of raised by him.
Little Aurora, how I've missed you.
Little Aurora, how I missed.
So
good voice actor for Shadow King too.
Oh yeah,
kind of creepy and
I'm going to talk about that in one of my points. So
very cool.
So they're all sort of influenced by the same people that attacked them before. Storm's ceiling comes down, and Sentinel's fist comes through, grabs her. Sabretooth attacks Wolverine. All the sort of same things that bothered them before. So they all kind of Cyclops calls out to them in the intercom. They wake up. They realize that they're all dreaming. And Storm recognizes the influence of the Shadow King because she's felt it before. Mm-hmm. Beast can tell through his crazy sensors. I'm guessing shared technology, because who knows at this point that Charles is being infected by somebody else, in which we quickly learn it is the Shadow King. And the X-Men
just making that Shi'ar technology work. Whatever little bit of it they got, he's
now they can just say
engineering it.
Anytime they need any kind of Deus Ex Machina, just be like, well, Shi'ar technology we got hanging around. So, which is pretty funny. But it's funny because the Shadow King basically is going to take over the world using Charles's body. The X-Men hesitate to attack him because they will damage Charles. So he got the perfect hostage. He says it's one that he can never, that he wears instead of holds in front of him. So one that you can never really hurt. And they're all kind of at the mercy of the Shadow King for a little bit here. And he starts to attack them, but then
as the struggle begins on the astral plane, we can only wait and hope.
Jean goes in, mental powers wise, and tries to rescue Charles, who's being trapped in this very I can only describe it.
So the whole episode, Cyclops just keeps saying, "Can't you do something? Can't you talk to him? Like, just go in his. Can't you go in his mind and just solve this whole episode?"
Very strange, like iconography here. It's almost like someone just watched Nightbreed or one of those other movies that came out around this time. It's got all these like weird cuts and like Cronenbergian things, Clive Barkerian imagery, like with the astral planes and stuff. There's like Xavier's in a prison of hands that are kind of like this, with all these like markings and etchings all over them. Jean finds Charles, uses her powers to help free him. And basically, the two of them go on to attack the Shadow King on the astral plane within Charles' mind. So within this fight, Charles takes on the Shadow King takes on his form that you have in your little hero click there. And it's very cool. Charles takes on a form of a gladiator, and Jean Grey takes on some kind of a form of... do you have this one too?
Check this one out. This is the same Shadow King, but he's taking over Storm, so Storm's there too, and it's actually
that's
Storm,
really cool.
But Shadow King is ruling her mind.
Is that from the animated series as well?
Yeah.
Is that from the episode they were in before?
I don't remember. It must be or a later one.
Oh, that'd be interesting if he comes back. Yeah. So Jean Grey puts on some armor as well. There's an interesting panel here, frame here of the Shadow King looking down at the sort of spiral into the prison. And on the back of his armor is something that looks very much like a Green Lantern symbol. Did you notice this?
No.
Vortex
looks like a place you don't want to go, though.
For sure. He kind of looks like the Destroyer a little bit with this outfit as well. But I do really dig this kind of armor.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like samurai-ish.
I think that's what it's a little more medieval, I kind of think. But I don't know. I like it. So anyway, Jean and Charles fight him off for a bit, until he takes on a bigger form that kind of looks like a Shogun warrior. It's the best thing I can describe, if you remember that reference of Marvel Comics from way back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's kind of what, yeah.
But Charles and him getting essentially what is a lightsaber fight, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
They got
he pulls out his lightsaber. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah, they're meant to be more like
powers. No! You cannot deny me!
He's too strong!
Stay with me, Jean! Together we can do it!
Yeah, so Jean and Charles do manage to overcome him in the fight. and force him back into the portal. He tries to pull Jean in with him, but Charles is strong enough to pull her out and stop.
2 against 1, no fair.
Stop the madness.
No fair. X-Men do not play fair.
And then there's a nice little coda at the end here when they're all on the front line after this all. Do you have that Wolverine's on the line?
No, I missed
No,
it.
you missed all the good Wolverine lines. He's like, I just want to know what just happened.
Yeah.
And Charles says something. Charles says something. He said the Shadow King just reminded us,
I have that.
Okay.
He forced me to think through why I formed the X-Men and why we fight for our ideals and for each other. In short, why I live. For that, I will always be grateful.
Sure, he tried to kill us, but he made me remember some stuff from my past, and because of that,
the episode's called Xavier Remembers. That's incredibly important in this particular instance.
Because of that, I'll drop him a Christmas card into the astral plane once a year. Yeah,
which he won't get because he's imprisoned.
That's right. He can't do anything. He's probably just insane at this point. But... So
the thing is about well, actually, maybe I'll save that for an next.
And that ends the episode.
Yeah.
We get a little flash of the next episode, which isn't right because it's the old the
Juggernaut returns.
Juggernaut returns. And if you look at the original numbering,
4 episodes previous to this one, it's what starts season 4.
If you look at if you look at the original ways these aired, this is still season 3. This episode, so
wonky. This new order is working way better.
Oh yes, for sure.
Each of us will have to look into his own heart and decide.
You go first because I'm still processing.
Processing, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go with the first one. The monsters that
no ratings from 1 to X.
Oh shoot, sorry. God damn it. Oof. Yeah, I mean this is fun. It's like horror elements. It's not great, like it's not fantastic, but I do really like the look, like the design of the Shadow King. He's pretty cool. It's like sort of suit of armor, and they're in space, but they're all kind of made of these white lines. So there's really interesting animation in that when they're fighting in the astral plane. Some cool action, all that stuff, and seeing the X-Men kind of fight some of these villains in their dreams. The X-Men didn't have a lot to do, but that doesn't matter so much. This is pretty much a Xavier piece. So,
Most of the episode was in the astral plane.
Yeah, but I liked it. I wouldn't say it was the best thing ever, but I don't think it's deserving of like a low score. So I'm gonna say an 8, I guess. I'm gonna go with 8.
I'll go with 7.
I was thinking of 7, but I think some of the animation choices were cool enough to elevate it a little bit for me. So
it was, yeah. It didn't have the best kind of flow. Like it didn't have really a beginning, a middle, or an end. It was just kind of hallucinogenic insanity the entire time.
But I like that,
which is fine. It's different, like you said. It was different. It was a horror element. I mean, the Shadow King was cool. You're kind of winning me over now.
I'm good at that.
We get to see Storm as a youth.
It's a youth.
I'm gonna stick with my 7, but
you traitor, you don't love Storm. You hate Storm.
Fine, I give it a 10.
I'm kidding. It's a 10. You got me, motherfucker.
You got me there. Jeez. Here's X-Goon Ryan says, "Gentlemen, love what you do, and I look forward to listening to the full episode tomorrow. Thank you for your dedication to our childhood tunes, and I look forward to that eventual Spider-Man pod winky face." Thank you, Ryan.
We appreciate
Ryan. That.
You very much appreciate that.
Man. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We like bringing the show to you. All right, let's move on to the segment you tried to do a little too early in the show.
Oh, well, sorry if
I try to time everything perfect except for the audio clips during your recaps, and you just go and ruin the whole thing.
Well, I'll see myself out.
All right, don't get any X points.
You start, because I'm trying to find the names of something that comes to mind. So,
all right. Well, my first one. Okay, it just made me laugh, and it all gets explained later and stuff. But where are we?
Why can't I move?
Why can't we wake him from his nightmare?
Professor Xavier had sleep paralysis, which is a real thing. That's,
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, the thing's right.
That's the first thing I thought. I just laughed when that line happened. I'm like, he's got sleep paralysis.
But there doesn't really seem to
know,
be
when you have sleep paralysis, you see kind of dark figures that are sort of like people, and that's sort of like the Shadow King. The whole thing was just kind of like a bout of. You could view this entire episode as like a 45-second bout of sleep paralysis on behalf of the professor.
Yeah, you could do that. That's kind of funny,
Yep.
actually. Well, I'm having trouble finding the names for these characters. I probably would if I had time to search through all these giant monster characters. But anyway, the two monsters that they turn into when they fight are classic Marvel monsters that were from like the old
the
Marvel
Kirby.
comic. Yeah, like the Kirby-esque monster
when it was
one.
Atlas.
One I thought was one of them I thought was was Fing Fang Foom, but on closer inspection, it's not.
No,
the Red Ronin is the character I was trying to think of that Tony Stark built to fight Godzilla when Godzilla had a Marvel comic, and that's kind of the way the Shadow King looked when he took that form, which I think may have been inspired by that. But I think it was one of them was not Gorgola. One of them was
Giganto.
Giganto. That was one of them, and
the green one was Giganto. Yeah.
For sure. And I mean, you could argue one's Fing Fang Foom, but I'm pretty sure it's not. There's one that kind of looks like him, but is, it's like not Gugam. It's one of those. There's a lot of them, a lot of really ridiculous big Marvel monsters. But yeah, it's one of those. So it's kind of neat that they stuck those in there in such a fun little way, because they are pretty cool, like obscure Marvel characters. And they don't often pop up, although there was a fun book a while ago called Where Monsters Dwell or something like that Marvel put out, where it's sort of revisited a lot of those classic big monsters, which is pretty cool. So
Giganto people will probably recognize from the classic first issue of Fantastic Four cover. He's the green monster coming out of the ground.
Yes. And I want to, like I said, it does seem like it's Fing Fang Foom, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Anyway, check them out. That was a fun little bit.
Very cool. My next one, well, they did an updated Shadow King look. Like you said, he looks like John Rice Davies. Normally he doesn't. Normally he looks more like this fella here.
Yeah, I remember that guy.
Wears his hat and his white suit. That's what you. So they did more of an updated, less kind of a more relatable look. Maybe he just looks like a regular guy rather than a very kind of odd character. It was just an interesting way to go with it, I thought, because that's the classic look. You almost expect that, and I think they maybe even hinted that look in the last time we saw him, maybe, but I can't quite recall. All right, back to you.
Well, the actor that did the voice of the Shadow King in this episode is I wouldn't say very famous, but he's one of those Canadian actors that pops up in everything.
He was on Forever Night.
He was. I don't know if he was, actually. His name is Maurice Dean Wint. He's in a lot of Canadian cartoons and shows. He was on My Secret Identity. He was on Captain Power.
You'll never guess my secret identity.
He's on Captain Power, The Soldiers of the Future. He was on Friday the 13th TV series, Street Legal. He's on the Hammerman cartoon when MC Hammer had his own cartoon. Tech War.
And he had his talking shoes.
He's on the live action RoboCop show, the Kung Fu show, Tech War, Wildcats cartoon. Forever Night, he was on at FX, the series. Due South, Traders, The Outer Limits, all this stuff. But the one thing he was on that I highly suggest, and this is a sneaky film recommendation, is the Canadian classic movie by Vincenzo Natali, Cube. If you haven't seen this movie, I highly suggest it. It's a beautiful piece of independent filmmaking with an ingenious concept about six strangers that wake up in different rooms that are perfect squares, cubes, if you will, that have doors on every side. And eventually they're traps in certain rooms, traps in others. Some people die. Some they find each other and try to figure out why they all wound up in this giant puzzle cube that shifts and moves. And there's a whole thing about how to escape. But this guy essentially plays the crazy, alpha male asshole that becomes the villain of the piece eventually. But he's very good in that. It's a really good movie. Check it out. Vincenzo Natali's gone on to do a lot of really cool stuff. Most notably, recently, he did an episode of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix. Might be one of the best episodes of that show, the Rats, Graveyard Rats, which is fantastic. So check out his work. He did a lot of cool stuff. He did the movie Splice as well, which I love, which is a great movie.
Yes, with Sarah Polley, Canada's sweetheart,
Adrian Brody, and that movie perfectly surmises what would happen if how horrible humans are and what we would do if we did create a new life form. First, we would
Splice as well.
First, we'd be overprotective.
I liked it though. It didn't feel like a movie to me. It felt like an episode of something, like The Outer Limits, or
kind of. But
I still liked it.
Yeah, very good episode. Very good movie. So check that out.
Okay. Well, next, here's a prediction. I mean, I could have saved this for another segment later, but I won't. Shadow King in the MCU. Now, to me, he's the perfect place to go because they haven't done him yet in movie form. And as far as Xavier's main nemesis go, they've mostly just done Magneto over and over again. So I think you have to show like this dichotomy as well, where it's really showing the other side of the coin and the other aspect of Xavier. So yeah, I would really like to see that. I think, they would give them a chance to, diversify the MCU some more as well. It's not like it's just a white American character or anything like that. So go for it. And we'll play the casting game later, but I'm going to throw one out there right now. They should cast Alexander Siddig as the Shadow King, who played Julian Bashir in DS9. That's what they should do.
Small role in Game of Thrones too.
Yeah, he did. He was one of the Dorne fellas. He was like the king of Dorne.
Yeah, I love that actor. Actually, he's very good.
He's a fantastic actor. Yeah, he's in lots of things. Like I think he even in one of the DC shows he played Ra's al Ghul.
Did you watch the? Oh yeah, he did. Right, I think it was on Teen Titans or one of those, or Titans or whatever. Did you watch that documentary, the What We Left Behind, about the?
I cried through the whole thing.
Man,
I've seen it like 2 or 3 times. It's beautiful.
What made me so upset? I went to the theater to watch it, and what bothered me the most about it is I loved it, but was when the writers' room they get together and they write what the first episode of a reboot would be, and it was so fucking good. And the fact I'm probably never going to see it makes me so sad because it was so good, and I'm like, God damn it, why can't this exist? Maybe someday.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, we got another season of Twin Peaks 45 years later, so maybe this is.
They did the return of Cisco in the comics just last month.
That never matters. They're going to do it in the show. They'll probably do it on Picard or something stupid. Season 3 Picard.
That's coming back next month. Season 3 of Picard, but yeah.
Yeah. So I know that's the last season. So
they say.
Not too well. I mean, Patrick Stewart is quite old. Like I'm not.
But they asked him about it, and he's just like, "Oh, I'd be willing to do another season."
Well, I'm sure he would be willing to, but I mean, it's hard to insure him when he's like 90, and if the show doesn't work because he's dead, I mean, then that's tough. There's a lot of things when it comes to filmmaking.
Murphy says he was Rajin Gotham.
Gotham, okay, that's what it was. Cool. I tried to watch that show. I got about halfway through season 2, and I could not continue. It was so bad, so bad.
It is content.
I mean, I really want to watch the Doom Patrol show because I'm a big fan of that run because it's based on
Brendan Fraser's in that, isn't he?
Yeah, he plays Robot Man. Well, he does a voice for Robot Man, and whenever they do flashbacks, he plays the human version of Robot Man. But yeah, it looks quite good, and it's supposed to be quite true to the Morrison comics. So I'm gonna have to get to that eventually.
Yeah. Mine or yours?
It's mine. So I feel like I had more points keyed up here. Oh, the actress who does the voice of
who? Who else was in this episode? Jean? Catherine Disher?
No, it was shoot. I must have been looking up something else. Anywho, yeah, so the general I mean, okay, yeah, this was one of my points. So this actually makes the Storm episode with Shadow King better. because you know, they in that episode that was way back in season 2. Or season 2, right? Or season 1?
It was like the third episode of season
Whatever
2.
it takes. It was the third episode of season 2, yeah. So you know, that episode had a lot of complaints about like how the Shadow King was like some ancient enemy they fought a bunch of times, and this makes it slightly worse too, because you know,
It creates a plot hole there.
well, a bigger one or more, it just adds more to the previous plot hole. But you know, the idea that it was before it was, you know, that they fought it before, but they didn't. But then this time it was like they, you know, how did Rogue know who he was? Because Charles seemed to only fight him the once, and also Storm didn't tell anybody about when she fought him in Africa before. You know, like yeah, she didn't need to tell those guys, especially Professor X's ultimate enemy.
She's someone who keeps her own counsel.
I guess so, but I feel like it may have been important to say, well, he may have a way out of the astral plane. He's done it before, so keep an eye out there, Charles. Try not to get
Missionary ran him back.
Try not to get any slick concussions. So yeah, it makes that episode a little better because we do get some backstory as to how they're connected and what it all means. But you know, it also makes it slightly worse.
It also makes the ongoing kind of plight, you could even say, of Shadow King better. Because first he tries to get out what he assumes is the easy way, going after kind of a less formidable target for him. He's like, maybe I can with Storm's nephew son. Maybe I can I can get out of here, which would be a little safer. But now he's like, that didn't work. So he had to go back and come up with a grander plan to go after Xavier, which is much tougher. The guy who banished him in the first place. But really the person he has to confront, because if he doesn't if he was going to get out the other way with Storm Missionary, he still would have had to contend with Xavier next. So you might as well just go right to Xavier.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But he should have incapacitated Jean first. Then he might have had a chance.
All right. You're next.
All right. Well, my next one, I don't know if I mentioned this last time we had a Shadow King episode, but there has been a live action Shadow King before, played by Aubrey Plaza in the Legion show. So,
well, she wasn't the original one though, right? It was just like he was using her form because she was his friend that died.
Well, she takes that form. He takes that form.
Oh, was she always the Shadow King from the beginning? No, yeah, okay. Because I only watched
that show.
I only watched the first couple episodes, and I liked it, but I just never got around to watching more of it. I should go back to it.
It's kind of hard. Yeah, I think I had to be in the right mood for that one.
I like Dan Stevens. Was he Professor X's son in that show?
I don't think they. See, that's the thing. I get annoyed with those Fox X-Men things because they're also disconnected. I don't need a disconnected Legion show.
You know, we should watch
in that world.
You know, we should live watch for fun sometimes, just as a bonus episode. We should live watch the Generation X made-for-TV movie they did.
Oh my god! All right, let's do it.
I've never seen it, and it's probably terrible, but I think it might be fun to watch. I guess we can't really just show the movie on this for rights reasons.
Sure, you can.
Can we?
Sure, you can. People do those things all the time. You just have to put it in a little small screen or whatever.
Yeah, but that's
we'll be talking over it, right? We'll be talking over the whole thing.
I guess, but I'd like to actually hear it to see how bad it is too. Maybe we should just watch it and then talk about it. But
might
be a fun bonus. Yeah, the live react.
I think the live react might be funny. People can watch it on their own afterwards.
That's fair. It's it's supposed to, we should get Dave to come do it with us because I know he's made some jokes about it too.
Did he? Okay. Yeah, we'll get someone else.
Is it back to me now?
Yeah.
All right. So when Xavier takes on his gladiator form, does that look familiar to you?
Yes, but I can't remember.
It's Gladiator, the Daredevil villain. He's wearing Gladiator's full.
Oh, was it really?
100%. Yeah, the original Melvin I can't remember his last name. Melvin Potter Gladiator outfit. That's basically what he's wearing. I don't know if it was intentional or it was just a classic Gladiator outfit, but it does look very much like Melvin Potter's Gladiator outfit, which I thought was kind of fun.
Did he even have the saw blades?
No, he didn't. But he had the sword and he had the shield thing. It was kind of looked like a saw blade.
That's interesting. Oh, my last one. What is it going to be here? You know what? I already mentioned it. Oh, you know what? We'll go this way with it. So the astral plane in the MCU could be a whole thing, because now that we've done all these different dimensions and things, it might be a nice idea for them to mine a bit, as far as whatever, bringing in new characters or tying characters together. Like they could meet Doctor Strange in the astral plane, and they could start forming a real Illuminati. Those two could just talking on the astral plane or things like that. And it'll just be a different idea for them to add, because they keep looking for new ways to create threats, like whether it be the multiverse or time travel with Kang or all these things. They just need these different avenues for villains to attack from. And the astral plane's a good one, and that's why I think Shadow King would also be great in the MCU. That was my last one.
Does that mean I have one more?
He says they touched on the astral plane in Black Panther. Murphy says that's the ancestral plane.
Yeah, they're kind of different. But Doctor Strange has kind of tapped into it a bit in the MCU, I believe. They have definitely done that a few times in those movies, I'm pretty sure. So,
you have any points left, or was that it?
No, I have one more. So you went first, right? So that means I go last. So yeah, it would be just the general tone of this episode. I like the horror elements and how they bled through, and how it kind of had a general. I mean, maybe this is a more salient point. Xavier's mind. They've talked about how mutants can be trusted with their powers. We shouldn't regulate them or whatever. This is like the fourth time I think his mind's been used to fuck around with people in his life and possibly destroy the world. So, just because he had a mild concussion this time, that's all it took for the Shadow King to swoop in and take over his body. So, it's like I get
that though. That shows you how protective Xavier has to be of himself and his mind all the time.
But it's like it's got to be exhausting being an X-Man. It's just villains from all sides all the time. You can't have a sleep. It's like you have your dreams are invaded by the Shadow King. You want to go to the park, there's a sentinel. You want to go to the end of the street, the friends of humanity are trying to kill you. Then it's your half brothers trying to I love in comics because they run for so long, for so many decades of continuity builds up and up. They're literally almost everybody in your life becomes either a villain or a tragic figure. Your wife gets murdered, but then your friend did it, so now he's your mortal enemy. But then your dad bailed on you when he was a kid, but he comes back and he's now a space pirate. It just everything is something. Nothing. There can't be an uncle who's just a guy that waters the plants. You're like, hey, look, there's Uncle Steve. He's never done anything bad to me. Or how? Yes, of course he is. Of course he is. He's an arch criminal that no one knows about. That's just how it has to be. Which I kind of like. It's fun, especially when comics go on for decades, because you really build up this really interesting kinetic universe that it's just full of connections that all get made. And if they weren't made to begin with, they'll be retconned into being made later.
It's one thing I loved about the X-Men too, the most growing up, is their interconnected world always made the most sense, because they have all these ties that would bring them together. Being mutants, or out there searching for mutants, and having telepathic people sensing mutants, or just the mutant plight itself is the reason for villainy. People are fighting back against oppression and things like that. So it always felt like such a cohesive world.
Yeah, X-Men. I agree. Yeah, it's kind of familiar too. It's almost like a family. So you get there's deeper connections than just we're forced to be a team. It's not like the Defenders or something where they're just other people all crammed together.
It's like they always say, the Avengers are a football team, the X-Men are a family.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Hey, check this out.
Hey, check this out. This is our comic reminiscences and recommendations. And now, I hope I'm not repeating myself, because we did do Shadow King before, but I don't think I mentioned this story. Maybe I did, but anyway, this is the Muir Island saga. So there's Shadow King there, very cool professor, all incapacitated but fighting back. These covers of this story are super dramatic. There's Xavier and the X-Men holding him up, and they're all just beat up and forlorn.
For Lord.
Out of there. And there's I love this. I always love this cover. There's like Cyclops or Colossus going after Xavier because Shadow King in this story is taking over the minds of everyone on Muir Island. And there's a ton of mutants on Muir Island. Like Guido was there at the time, and Colossus, and anyone Moira was helping, right? So it's like kind of like that, where he's just from Muir Island trying to have like a beachhead to slowly take over the entire world.
Mhm.
And it was an intense story. Muir Island Saga. Check it out. Like, check out this one. Like, look at that cover. Look at that.
Yes. Gorgeous.
That's gorgeous. Gorgeous stuff.
Doesn't Cyclops have to hit the button on his visor in order to open it so he can shoot his beams out?
Here's the thing about that. That is the most inconsistently written thing in comics. And now they have explained it in more modern runs that he has like a mental control over it, like the newer ones. But in the old, like in the 80s,
At the point of the visor was that he couldn't control it?
No, he can't control the beams coming out of his eyes. He can control the opening and closing of the visor. Yeah.
If they can do that, can't they fix the part that about his eyes he can't control? Like
he fell out of a plane, Andre.
Well,
like, look what the mild concussions did to you.
If they can alter his, like, they have technology that can make that happen. I feel like they should have something that could maybe make them contacts or something.
So you on that Shi'ar technology, would you?
Jeez, yeah, come on.
How about your buddy Cyclops with that?
You're just letting him flounder around with a stupid visor on his face.
Dude, pimp that jet. Yeah. So that's mine. The Muir Island Saga. Oh, I could say the issues. Part of now, it did bleed into a couple other stories as well, but most of it you have X Factor 69 and 70.
69.
This was a golden age of comics, let me tell you, when X-Men was on top. And Uncanny X-Men 278, 279, and 280. This is the last big story before the big split off of the X books, or right at that. Yeah, because that happens in 282, where they do the gold team and the blue team, and Jim Lee takes over the X-Men.
Things get crazy.
Things get crazy, yeah. So, what are you gonna reminisce and recommend for us, Andre?
Well, this is kind of apt. I try to keep my choices today apt to what we're discussing. So this is one of my recent dollar store finds, as we always have fun with talking about it. But because of it,
you have more luck in those dollar stores than I ever do.
You gotta go. You gotta go all the time. That's the key. You know, life. You live the dollar store. They've actually started putting Oni Press books in there. So I've got like a Gail Simone book and one by Ed Brisson, who was a guest on my show, and some other people, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Who writes for Marvel now as well, and he's doing a really cool Predator comic right now for Marvel.
What was this one I had by Ed Brisson one time that he did? Geez, it was an independent one.
The call.
Can't remember now.
So the field.
No, it had a one-word name. Oh crap!
No, not the field. Okay, this one was called it's like a little Asian kid is like the main character and he doesn't talk. That's the Oni book, but it was in the dollar store. But anyway, this one is Kaiju Max by Xander Cannon. Have you ever read this, Davan?
No.
So this is the second volume, but read it from the beginning. It's basically the show Oz, where people are stuck in prison, but with giant.
Now, Oz, I've seen every episode of.
But I've met Harold Perneau. I was acted on a show with him.
I think they should show all like troublemaking kids the complete series of Oz to scare them straight.
They'll probably do it. But in this book, it's about Oz with giant monsters. So of all of Godzilla's friends and the monsters Godzilla fights. Basically, once they're defeated, they're these sort of Ultraman type characters that act as jailers to keep them in prison on, I believe, it's the moon, and they're just supposed to stay there, or it might be on Earth, but they're supposed to stay there in this giant prison, where they basically form gangs, and it becomes basically a prison show. It's kind of like Shawshank Redemption, but with kaiju, which is pretty great. So it's a really fun idea that goes for broke almost every time. And it's very entertaining. It really plays up with the old giant monster movies, some of the tropes that came from those. And it's well worth checking out. Kaiju Max by Xander Cannon. It's very good.
Kaiju Max, interesting.
If you can find volume 1, check that one out. I have a single issue.
I remember hearing about that book back when it was coming out.
It's very good.
Yeah.
But it comes out infrequently, so you gotta like he puts them out in seasons. So like season 1, that book is season 2, but
like us.
like us.
My remote with Andre. Why don't you recommend a movie for us?
All right. Well,
by the way, we just watched Doctor Strangelove on the movie podcast, and I had never seen it before. My God, do I love that movie! One of my top 5 comedies ever, easily.
You are
Cousin
very
Dave didn't
lucky,
like it.
sir. It is a fantastic movie. I envy you for getting to watch that again for the first time.
Oh my God, just like.
But I have one. Usually, I recommend something just briefly that I've seen recently, and my beard looks really weird in the screen. There we go. That I've seen recently. That movie being Triangle of Sadness. So if you like social commentary movies, you may enjoy this one. Just came out. It's getting a lot of buzz. I think it won some Golden Globes or something. It won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. Criterion already announced they're putting it out on their Blu-rays, but it just came out like a few months ago. So it's a very interesting movie about showing kind of the gap between the hyper rich and the influencers and people that kind of have all this money, and then the regular folks, like done through the lens of a cruise ship, where you see the people that work there have to put up with the ridiculous demands and how far removed from reality often these crazy rich people on these boats are. And then when a situation occurs in which they are stranded, they are incapable of caring for themselves or providing for themselves in any way because they have no real life skills. And it's the crew or the people that were beneath them cleaning their toilets essentially that actually will survive in those situations because they know how to fish, how to cook food, all those sort of things. It's very good. It's a very black comedy, but it's like so black often that it's hard to even tell it's a comedy. But there are some. It's very good. Like I can't give too much of it away, but it's just a great experience. Great commentary on the wealth, the ultra wealthy, the affluent, and the blackest of black comedies. So very good. Woody Harrelson has a great turn as the drunken captain of the boat. He's only in it briefly, but it's very good. I highly suggest it. It's like 2.5 hours long. I watched it last night, and I loved it. It's fantastic. All right, so the movies I'm suggesting that are related to this are. I figured I'm going to keep it on brand with. I kind of forgot that I had other movies to talk about. Sorry. I'm going to keep it on brand with people fighting in their minds. You know, people doing mental attacks, physical attacks, if you will. And when I used it to describe a fantastic classic movie by one of my favorite directors and one that you must have seen. If you haven't seen, you've probably seen one particularly famous scene from it. Do you know what I'm talking about, Davan?
Favorite scene from what now?
I said, if you
Sorry,
haven't.
I was parenting there a moment.
Oh, on your phone? That is very modern parenting. So it's a Canadian director who made this movie about people fighting with their minds. It's a very famous movie. If you haven't seen it, you've probably seen a very famous scene
like Firestarter.
No, I'm talking about David Cronenberg's Scanners.
Oh, Scanners.
In which people do psychic, but people born with powers that are called scanners that have the ability to infect other people's minds and manipulate them. The famous scene I'm talking about is the one where Michael Ironside's character makes a dude's head explode on live television. Possibly one of the best
legendary scene.
Probably one of the best head explosions ever done in film. Possibly topped by Jesus, why am I forgetting his name? The guy from Rosemary's Baby that played her husband. He was a famous film director. Anyway, his death in The Fury by Brian De Palma. But anyway, so Scanners is a classic David Cronenberg movie, Canadian movie, filmed in Canada. But Michael Ironside, a bunch of other cool actors. Very cool about people fighting each other psychically. And if you're going to watch that, you may as well watch its lesser known and diminishing return sequels, Scanners 2 and Scanners 3, that had Cronenberg nothing to do with.
I didn't even know those existed.
Oh, it gets worse, my friend. So,
Jesus, are Scanners 4?
Oh, no. You see, so eventually they made Scanners, which Cronenberg made. Then, without his permission or anything, they made Scanners 2 and 3, which added other things about other people with the scanning abilities. Then they did kind of a sidequel This didn't carry on the stories from those because I believe the end of the third one takes place like in space or something, or the world blows up or something. But anyway, they did a sequel about people as a cop that is a scanner. So we had Scanner Cop,
Scanner Cop. Oh my god!
Which had 2 parts, Scanner Cop 1
Can't
and
believe
2.
you waste your hard-earned money on these.
These are beautiful additions. Look at this beautiful case. We had Scanner 1 and Scanner 2. Look at this artwork. Look what's going on with this guy's face. He's got stuff growing on his head. And look at this guy. Come on. These are great.
William Shatner somewhat.
Apparently, these are much better than Scanner 2 and 3. I haven't watched these yet, but I'm very excited.
Okay.
So Scanner 2 and 3, I believe, is dismissible. But Scanner Cop 1 and 2, I believe, are actually pretty good. In which it's a cop who has scanner powers that gets wrapped up in various scanner-related activities.
Don't say.
Yeah. Check it out. Scanners by David Cronenberg is the main one. So watch that one. It's a Blu-ray set, Sam, but thank you.
Andre looks down his nose at DVDs now.
I do not, because many old films can't be scanned by Blu-ray because of how they're filmed, so you have to watch them on DVD.
Oh, is that a thing? Interesting. All right, let's move on.
What were you doing? Playing with matches?
I'm breaking the rules here because it's 16-bit gaming with Super Nintendo Chalmers or Super Nintendo Skelhorn, not Chalmers. My Simpsons podcast is poisoning my brain. I guess the X is
who's losing their mind now. They're Super Nintendo Chalmers.
So it does the X team. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to talk about 8-bit games, but if you take 2 of them and put them together, you have 16 bits. So I'm just going to talk about where it all began. Mario 1. I'm going to talk about that for a second. I'm going to talk about 3 games. First, Mario 1. Why? Because Mario 1 was a turning point in video game history. Mario was the first kind of indication that maybe video games could be really fun and could be more than what they had been, which is just kind of quick, usually competitive one against one Pong type things, or really bad Atari games that are just like the guy from Atari once said, I can put, what did he say? I can put crap on a cartridge and sell it for $40. Like he could, and he did. So,
Sure did.
So it was a turning point in video games. Everyone played it. Everyone, like, that game was everywhere. That game, most houses had like 2 copies of that game. It must have sold like gangbusters. Next one, Mario 2. Mario 2, I'm going to talk about for a second.
I love that game.
See, it was overlooked by me as a kid. It wasn't like a true Mario game because it was Doki Doki Panic first, like in Japan. So it was never meant to be a Mario game.
You didn't know that when you were a kid, though. How would you have known that?
No, but it didn't play like a Mario game. So it didn't like really appeal to me as much, because by the time I really had actually Mario 2, this game was already out. Mario 3, which is probably one of the top 3 games ever created in the history of video games, right here. Mario 3. Now, Mario 3 takes what I said about Mario 1, takes it to the next level. Mario 3 was when we knew video games weren't going away and they were only going to get better and better, because Mario 3 is so fun, even to this day. Maybe still the best Mario game, and there are so many good Mario games. Mario World, Mario Galaxy games are great. Mario 2 and 1 are cool. But like I say, Mario 2 I never got very far in because it was odd to me. And I never gave it a lot of time. So I think I've only gotten a couple levels into it. I've never really put the time into it, and that's something I mean to do. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to beat Mario 2 one of these days. Now, Mario 3, I spent days of my life on, like, combined. Take all the hours. We have days, weeks, months I've spent on Mario 3. So, yeah. Check it out, everybody. 8 worlds, all beautiful. They're all very different. You've got like the ice world, you can slip and slide around. If you've never played Mario 3, you got warp whistles. Oh my god, you know what? I saw this thing on the internet. Andre just took off for a second, so I'm gonna keep talking about these video games. So I just learned that if you die in Mario 1, I saw this on the internet. I haven't checked it yet. I should check it today. But if you die in Mario 1, you can hit start or hold start and A, or hold A and hit start. That's it. And you'll start the game again right where you died. All the hours people put into that game, I don't think anyone ever knew that. I think these are like programmer codes and things they do to mess around on the game while they're creating it. But wow, if I'd have known that as a kid, gotta tell you. Well, let's move on to our next segment because I hear Andre freaking around back there. He'll be back.
See, you weren't supposed to acknowledge that I had left. That's why I put keep talking in the chat so I could run and then come back.
Well, once I started to get a little long-winded, I needed to explain to people why I was getting kind of
Just
long-winded.
talk about Storm. You can do that for 6 hours.
No, I kept talking about Mario, but I think I got to the point where people were probably like, "Why is he still talking about Mario?"
I did really love that game. It is fantastic.
Mario 3.
Well, I love 3 too, but 2 I also really liked as well. It was so weird and like dreamlike and different. I mean, even going back to it now, and even the villain was like a we've never seen in any, like they've never used him, Wart, in anything, like in any cartoon, anything else. You think he would have popped up at some point, even appearing as a villain in the game again?
He did appear in something else.
Really? What?
Yes, I can't think of what it was off the top of my head, but he did. Maybe it was the cartoon, but Wart did come back.
Oh, cool. That's exciting.
Yeah, and they used Birdo again.
Oh, Birdo's been used quite a bit, but I just never seen Wart used again, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, Mario 2 was Doki Doki Panic, which was a game made for a festival with like a Middle Eastern kind of flair, and that's why like a lot of the imagery and stuff is very Middle Eastern. So, all right, let's play a quick game and then get out of here. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let's do it.
You're playing with my emotions here. I know what's happening.
I know. I do that sometimes. There it is. It's our X casting game. Expert casting. I like my one earlier for Shadow King being Alexander Siddig.
Why does he need someone that's vaguely Middle Eastern to play him? Is that why you chose Alexander Siddig?
Yeah, and he's awesome, and he's from my favorite show of all time. Of course, I'm gonna pick Alexander Siddig.
Yeah, he's
all right. You go first. Shoot someone at me.
An actor, right? Or actress? Well, actor. We don't use the term actress really anymore. In the MCU proper, we're casting, right?
Yeah, we're doing MCU proper now. Yep.
Okay. Let's say. Give me a minute. Give me a minute to tip my tongue. It's coming. It's coming. It's gonna be Steve Buscemi.
Wow. Oh! I think I blew this one last week, but Steve Buscemi is obviously Peepers.
Yeah. Very obscure character. I don't know if we'd want to give him, he'd be featured that much in the movie or that he's in, but
he's so perfect for Peepers. He looks just like him.
Kind of, but it's sort of, yeah, I guess so. All right.
Like if not like it's because he's kind of older too. You don't want him to be one of the more action-oriented characters. No, definitely Peepers. They have time. They have time to introduce all these characters in the MCU.
That's true. That's true. We could see him. We could see Steve Buscemi's Peepers.
Okay, here's one for you. Since she's all the rage right now, even though I haven't seen the show. The girl who plays Wednesday, is it Jenny Ortega?
Jenny Ortega,
Jenna Ortega.
Yes. Oh wow, she would be very
young,
good.
so can play many of the students. That's a good.
Yes. Well, if we're keeping it X-Men specific, then yeah. Yeah, she's a great actress. She's in a really great horror movie that came out last year called X. And I saw her in
X. You say?
Yeah, just I think I've talked about it in the show. It's 70. It was just like a group that goes out to film a porno in the 70s in an old farmhouse somewhere, and then the people that own the farmhouse are this old couple that have some sinister intentions. It's very good. It's a very good horror movie. They did a prequel called Pearl, which they also put out this year, which I haven't watched yet. But Mia Goth is in it. She's very good. Jenny Ortega, wow. I really kind of feel like she'd be good at, I want to say Magic. I know we already kind of got her, but not in the MCU proper. I would pick her as Magic or maybe the Stepford Cuckoos.
Interesting.
She have to play all of them, I guess, but she's a good actress. She could
I
play
could
almost...
see her as the Cuckoos.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty funny.
I like that one.
Yeah. But well, I guess Magic.
I liked what's her name as Magic. Yeah, she does that.
And Taylor-Joy. Yeah, she was good.
And she was great as Magic. That movie was not great, but she was a good choice.
Who's the character that was like the pop star that was with Chamber in that X-Men run in like the early 2000s?
Lila Cheney?
Was that it?
Or Dazzler?
Not Dazzler. It was the other one that was like the more modern, like singer or something. She was with Chamber in that. Remember she had like, was she with the Ecstatics? No. Anyway, yeah, I remember that storyline, and she might have been good for that role as well, but I don't remember that character.
Modern one. I'm trying to think.
There's like some girl that was like a reality star, or like really popular, like a teenager.
Oh, well, they were all reality stars on the Ecstatics.
It wasn't that, but it was something. It was in the whatever comic that Chamber first popped up in, and he was a main character, and Chambers with her, but I can't remember her name. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
First popped up in Gen X, I think.
It was like in the early 2000s run. So like when Morrison's run was on X-Men, it was in one of the other X-Men books.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm not sure. But interesting. All right, moving on to where's our homework professor?
All I need now is for you to contact your students, Professor.
Well, your homework is to watch the next episode of the show, which would be Courage is the name of the episode, in which we see the return of Morph. So that must be fun. Get old Morphy boy back. This one's for you, Morph. You don't have it anymore? God.
I don't think, but no, because I got a new computer. I don't think I moved it over.
God dang it. What do we do? What are we doing here, man? What do we...
I know you'll just have to go get our this one's for you Morph merch.
Yeah, you can do that if you want. Yeah, so next episode would be season 4, episode 6. Courage. Morph and Wolverine investigate. Morph and Wolverine investigate and discover that the Sentinels are back. That's your one.
Also, listen to the Tragically Hip because they're awesome. They have a song called Courage.
Courage. Da-da.
Courage. My word.
Yep. What's your favorite Tragically Hip song?
Oh my God. Either Locked in the Trunk of a Car or Poets.
Really? Those are two very different songs.
Yeah.
I think mine would either be Bob Cajun or what's the other one? I had a dream that I relished in the fray,
and the screaming filled my head all day. That's Locked in the Trunk of a Car.
No, that's not it. It's
settled in. Only anything that's systematic would get you hated.
Off the coast of France.
Off the coast of France, dude. Yeah. Oh, it's it's the Nautical Disaster.
That's it. That's the one. Yes, that's probably, that might be my favorite one. So,
although
I really like the Darkest one, which is one that doesn't get mentioned a lot by people that are fans of them. So,
their albums are good. Go check out the Tragically Hip if you don't know it. They're the Canadian secret and no longer with us in the form they were.
Gord Downey is not, but the rest are still alive.
Yes, that's true. You can support the show on Patreon.
Give us your money. Give it to us. Money. We want it. Yours. Give it.
We need you. We need you.
Very nice.
Contact us at xmenreviewshow@gmail.com. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Find our audio-only version wherever you get your podcasts. And please like, review, subscribe. We're not getting enough reviews. We would love to hear what you guys think. I mean, a lot of you like to tell us while we're doing the show. That's great, too, because we love to hear it live. But the written reviews help us a lot as well. So if you do that, go for it.
So, get out of her dreams. Get out of her dreams.
Yeah, exactly. We are a proud member of the United Federation of Podcasts. And speaking of such a federation,
the Graphic Histories Podcast will return. I just had a new the second part of my conversation with Frank Forstall came out last Friday. Great talk. Really enjoyed that one a lot, actually. I like there's something that when you know the person, I didn't know Frank super well, but when you know someone before you talk to them in this capacity, it's nice when there's already a familiarity of sorts from knowing them. And so sometimes you can get into the meat of it. Although Frank and I did talk a lot. So we had a two-parter, but it was really fun, and I didn't want to cut it up because I thought it was really good overall. A lot of great themes about mental health, about kind of rebuilding yourself, artistic stuff. We go into AI art. We talk about a lot of great stuff. So yeah, check that one out. And then in 2 weeks' time, we'll have part one of another two-part interview. This time with David Cullen, who is a writer and artist on Marvel Comics. He worked on Marvel Spotlight. He did the issue with Wolverine on the cover, not that one, but the other flip side that dealt with some characters that were Iron Man villains. I can't remember their names offhand. But anyway, yeah, he did some work for that. He did and he does a lot of story. Yeah, he did a lot of storyboard work, mostly storyboard work now. Worked on the Lighthouse for A24 and some other stuff that came through this area. So we had a very interesting talk, especially a lot about the Lighthouse, because I really love that movie. And
me too.
I was surprised how much he said that of all the things he storyboarded, nothing has been closer to what his storyboards in that movie. That was.
It looks like a comic book. It's all very kind of almost still frame imagery.
Yeah, it was. It was a great talk. Part one of that will come out a week from Friday, and then part 2 weeks after that. So check those out.
All right, check those out. Speaking of movies, check out Hold Up a Movie podcast. For me and Murphy and guests on a lot of weeks talk about movies. We just did, like I said, their politics episode on Dr. Strangelove, An American President, and Lincoln. One of those movies was really bad, unless you ask Cousin Dave. And our next episode, coming next Wednesday, not tomorrow, but the Wednesday after, is our war episode, where we will be reviewing Bridge on the River Kwai, A Bridge Too Far, and 1917. So that should be fun with guest Matthew Francis from the KBBBL podcast. Did you say KBBBL podcast? The extra B is for BYOBB. Check it out. We're on, what do we got coming up here? The bowling one, where Marge meets the sexy bowling instructor.
That's coming up. That's a good episode.
Yeah. And also check out Trivial Debates, the next one coming up January 29th, where it's going to be hosted by Jaemeel with contestants Cousin Dave, Cousin Jeff, and Foster, who I don't know. But, new contender over there at Trivial Debates. Check that show out for sure. Also check out the Hellbound podcast with Alex Blackburn and Michael Chan. You started listening to that yet, Andre?
No. Sorry, I'm just muting my mic while I'm coughing over here. I'm still getting over that cold, so not yet. No,
you get over it soon. Also check out Live Long and Podcast, where we have, of course, Locutors of Trek, where me and Dave Buxley talk about all things Trek and the world, really. But also, we'd look at that handsome bunch over there, Live Long and Podcast. We do lots of things in the Ops Division. We do Star Trek Radio Theater. In the Command Division, they review episodes of the many shows. Picard's coming back. Me and Cousin Dave just did a little trailer reaction for the season 3 of Picard. Get ready for that there the other day. And DS9 at 9 is coming up after this show, so tune into that in 25 minutes from now. And in the Science Division, we launch probes, we debate, we get into the nitty-gritty in the science of things, but we also have fun. We do trivia games, debate games, all kinds of fun stuff. Look at all that good stuff. That is our empire as it stands right now. Anything else, Andre?
One quick question for you, Davan.
Yeah.
If you had to add one thing to this Ant-Man movie, which goes deep into the quantum realm, which essentially is the microverse,
I think we have the same answer.
What would you like to see the most pop up?
I mean, not that I'm a huge fan of them or anything, but they make the most sense. Probably the Micronauts.
I would too, but I feel like there's an issue because Marvel hasn't brought. No,
Yeah.
Marvel has never made the new comics. They made new ones with a different company.
They own 2 of the Micronauts. They own Bug and one of the other ones. Bug was on the Guardians of the Galaxy for a while, but he started in the Micronauts.
Right. So I would like to see those two. I also would really love to see the Psycho Man, who's a character that has not popped up in anything lately. And
Psycho Man's
really
a good character.
Yeah, I know. I'd really like to see him pop up, but I don't think he will. I am pretty happy that the actor from Midsommar and The Good Place, I can't remember his name. He played Chidi on The Good Place. He's in it, so I'm pretty excited to see what he's going to do.
Rumors are he could play Reed Richards. I guess we'll find out.
There's a rumor. A lot of people have requested that. Actually, the guy that played what's his name on okay, he was on he's in the Mike Flanagan movies on the Mike Flanagan,
the guy who casts his wife in everything. She's in all of them.
Not all of them, but
good actress,
quite a few of them. She's great. I love Mike Flanagan. Anything Mike Flanagan does is good. Nothing he has made is bad. You cannot prove otherwise.
Not bad. Some of them are better than others.
I will fight
some
you,
of them
sir.
Have just be kind of like
I think Midnight
most
Mass.
of them are good.
Midnight Mass was a masterpiece in my opinion. But
yeah, I loved Midnight Mass. It was my favorite.
Yeah, Haunting of Hill House. I loved Haunting of Bly Manor. I also loved not as much as
those ones were just kind of okay.
Really, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
Oculus is great. Even his first movie in Sencha is really good. Doctor Sleep, I think, is a masterpiece. Gerald's Game's a masterpiece. Anyway, watch all those. But anyway, the guy from Midnight Mass who played the sheriff, he was on the TV adaptation of what was that? iZombie. That guy. There's a rumor that he was kind of in the mix to play Reed Richards as well, and I really like him. I think he'd be cool for that spot as well. Although apparently, rumor has it that Marvel's trying to get Adam Driver to do it, which would be kind of neat.
I don't like that casting at all.
I could get behind it. He was in. They did an adaptation on Netflix of Don DeLillo's novel White Noise, which he was in recently. Noah Baumbach did it, and it was really, really good. So
he had a small role in Lincoln, but a lot of people had small roles in Lincoln's in Lincoln.
Small
a lot of
Lincoln
famous people.
roles.
Yeah. All right, let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Let's do it.
Catch you next time, everybody.
Next time.
Your mind held me locked here, but that innocent blow to your head weakened your hold on me, permitting me to escape.
1, 2, 3.